And hello everybody, Robert Adichie here with Ulisses, Spiel Ulisses International, and we are going to talk about Torg today. I wanted to first throw out a few details. We still got our stay at home and play at home initiative running, so you can go check out the website. We've got this article here. This is the Up the Creek Quick Start, which we're giving away. You can download that for free. If you want a physical copy of the Up the Creek Quick Start, you can also get the Ulisses online convention package. It includes this quick start. It includes a Fading Suns introduction and a German Dark Eye adventure. So check those out. You can also get a shirt and a mug for our upcoming online convention. And of course, Chrome is taking this moment to not work. But I also wanted to highlight, so not only can you get the stay at home and play Up the Creek Quick Start, you can also get the Day 1 adventures, which we're about to go over, the drama deck, and the archetypes and GM screen, all for pay what you want on Drive Through RPG right now. So go check those out. This is all, in support of people staying at home for COVID-19, and so we want you guys out there playing games, and so go ahead and check those out. Also, coming up next week, next Tuesday, we're going to start the Tharkold Kickstarter or crowdfunding, and that's going to be from July 23rd through August. June 23rd through August through July 14th. So that will be the Tharkold Game On tabletop crowdfunding, June 23rd through July 14th. Well, Chrome is not working for me right now, so let's switch back over here to the adventure. So we've kind of gone over. It took me a couple sessions to read the Living Land introduction adventure, and I also did the Tharkold one recently in honor of the Tharkold crowdfunding coming up. But I wanted to jump into the Aysle. And let's see, it looks like I turned it off. The whole issue with my Chrome, I had the music playing from the Aysle Revenge of the Caradon soundtrack. All the soundtracks for Torg Eternity are great, really great for your games, to add a little bit of ambiance into the background. So, like all of the Day 1 adventures, this comes with a bunch of pre-generated characters that you can use. They start off as ords, as ordinary characters, and then as you play, they have their moment of change. I forget what it's called, but they become Storm Knights. And so when you use these characters, all of this information here, let's see, that's in brackets. This is information. This is kind of abilities that will come to them once they become a Storm Knight. So these are the 6 different characters, and you can download these character sheets, full character sheets for these characters from our website. If you go to into the download section, ulysses-us.com/downloads, you can get a full character sheet for each of these characters. But getting into it, so this is the Act 1. Looks like this is a 2-act adventure. So we'll just get into it. Tourists and visitors to Trafalgar Square find themselves caught in the crossfire as strange creatures emerge from underground and terrifying dragons fly overhead. In the chaos, a few special people transform into extraordinary heroes, able to fight back against the invaders. Statues come to life. Ominous robed figures direct savage creatures to capture specific individuals and drag them down into the subway tunnels below. The battle culminates with the arrival of a mighty dragon, wounded but still very dangerous. The heroes join the refugees, hold out inside the National Gallery, and there discover one of the children has been abducted and carried into the strange new tunnels. The Storm Knights delve after her and discover wonders, horrors, and potential allies in the realm below. Scene 1. Dragons over London. Standard scene. Each one of the characters is in Trafalgar Square, either on foot or via the double-decker bus Sean Molly drives. Jamie Thacker's class of school children also ride the bus, along with her assistant, Jan Taylor. The morning is cloudy and threatening to turn stormy. The crowds at the square are sparse so far today. The National Gallery opens within an hour. The only indication that the possibility raiders are arriving across the globe is a worsening communications blackout. The media in London blame the outages on server crashes, rerouted traffic, and an insidious new virus affecting Europe. Sensational news outlets are spreading stories of a massive natural disaster striking India and North America. The Larkins call back home to the United States don't connect, and the local phone service is growing spotty, so characters with mobile phones may already be ill at ease. The Larkins call back, establish where everyone is on the map of Trafalgar Square. All the characters should be in or near Sean's double-decker bus. Give the players a moment to introduce their characters and then describe the other occupants on the bus. It says all manner of other creatures now lurk in the tunnels below London. It's a pretty cool picture. Jen Taylor. Jan is short, fussy, and serious to a fault. She volunteers to help at Jamie Thacker's school because she loves kids and wants to be a teacher herself someday. Jan's haircut is truly unfortunate. She had it done yesterday, hoping to look especially nice for the trip, but it didn't turn out well, and she's extremely self-conscious about it. Quote, 28, 29, 30, that's everyone. Amelia Wash. She's 10 and the most friendly and outgoing of the school children. The other kids naturally defer to her and follow her lead. Amelia has intense blue eyes and an unwavering gaze, especially for her age. Quote, I hope we'll have some free time to explore the museum on our own. The ground shakes. After setting the scene, shake or slap the table dramatically, then read or paraphrase the following. Your head spins as you pick yourself up from the ground. Distant air raid sirens and thunder compete with the cacophony of 100 car alarms incessantly beeping. The car alarms go silent, but the rumble grows even louder. A huge chasm splits open across the street, sending cars and parts of buildings tumbling down into the dark pit. All around you, people are getting back up. Some look down into the chasm in shock. A few others gape at something in the sky overhead. The ringing in your ears starts to clear, only to be replaced by the cries of the people nearby. Aysle's axioms and the world laws are now in effect. Don't deal cosm cards to the players yet. They become more appropriate once the heroes delve into the underground. Over the edge. The fissure that opened into the street threatens Sean's bus. The characters are either nearby or already aboard. The bus teeters on the edge. Its wheels are useless, so it can't be driven to safety. The only option is to get everyone out before it plummets into the abyss. There are different approaches to evacuating the passengers. A challenging DN-12 strength test stabilizes the bus, allowing extra time for people to escape. An easy DN-8 persuasion test motivates Jan and the children to leave without panic trampling. A standard dexterity or strength grabs and pulls passengers to safety before it's too late. Any attempt to help triggers a moment of crisis. Amelia also distinguished herself during the operation. She's especially calm and lets the other children flee in front of her. She's the last child out. Any grab for a passenger is likely to rescue Amelia at the last moment. See the little map, the National Gallery, Trafalgar Square, Charing Cross Station, Nelson's Lines, bus stop. A statue attacks. During the chaos, a strange transformation takes place around the square. Chasms open across many of the streets and buildings tumble down, blocking exits. The only two clear routes are toward the Charing Cross Station or the National Gallery building. The museum remains intact, but other structures within venerable Trafalgar Square seem to change before the hero's eyes. Streetlights morph into oil lamps, and the stone changes from polished white marble to darker and coarser limestone. A bolt of lightning strikes down from the growing storms overhead. It hits one of the newer statues in the square, a large metal lion sculpted to look as though it were made of clockwork. After the bolt hits, the gears begin to whir, and the lion begins to move. A stunned onlooker falls to the ground near the statue. It turns and prepares to pounce. If the heroes don't intervene, the creature crushes the hapless civilian with its leap. and then plays with the broken body in its jaws. If the heroes make any attempt to stop or distract it, the Clockwork Lion turns its full attention to them. Clockwork Lion, see below. This sculpture comes to life and menaces the people in the area. The statue behaves like a real lion, even though it's a construct. It flinches from gunfire and can be startled by aggressive movements. Interactions may stall it, but eventually it swats back at the heroes with massive paws. It's larger than a normal lion and composed of hollow burnished bronze. It's large. It's 2 meters tall. Transformations. When a Storm Knight transforms to another Cosm, perks and equipment change to match. He remembers his old life, although portions that relate to higher axioms are fuzzy and muddled. Formerly alien concepts become clear instead. Bell, for example, may use magic as if he had been an expert for years. It isn't just the character's mind that changes. Items and clothing transform to equivalents from the new reality. Mobile phones become parchment or torches. Casual street clothing converts to the latest Aysle fashion, and even armor if the hero is lucky. Addison Cordray is most effective. Her standard bobby equipment transforms into fantastic equivalents. Her speed cuffs become a pair of iron manacles. Her protective stab vest becomes elven chainmail and offers the same protection. Her modern baton changes into a mace, which still deals strength plus 2 damage, but it now has the stagger property. If she deals damage to a target, it becomes stymied. Bel Patel's clothes become wizard's robes, which is all the prompting he needs to try out his new magical abilities. The others' clothing upgrades to armor befitting their roles. Sean Molly's items don't transform at all, since he connects to core Earth instead of Aysle. If he transforms later thanks to a mishap reconnecting, Lucy changes into a light crossbow, and he swaps his fire combat adds with his missile weapon adds. Trouble in the square. Once the line is dealt with, several other problems erupt simultaneously. Stampeding Crowd. Some of the crowd are trying to take pictures of the changes, but most panic and stampede toward the Charing Cross underground station. As people rush forward, an elderly woman is knocked to the ground and is in danger of being trampled. Characters trying to help her need to push against the crowd with a standard strength test. If the test fails, the hero still manages to protect the woman, but gets shoved for 2 shock. Padre in the chat says, once again, a lot of elements introduced in this adventure come back in the source book and adventures. Nice. Transforming people. Some of the people around the square physically change. Clothing transforms into medieval garb and flowing cloaks. Mobile phones become parchment scrolls. A mental change accompanies the physical one. Those affected now have lower social and tech axiom, so various aspects of the modern world just don't make sense to them anymore. Calls to the emergency numbers such as 112 or 999 cannot be completed. Phones either fail to operate or there's simply no signal. The characters might try to make the victims as comfortable as possible with an easy DN8 first aid test. A good success or better reveals that the afflicted person suffers from shock and also short-term memory loss, perhaps from a severe concussion. Ammunition. Sanj's pistol, Lucy, is illegal, but he's a rough man who doesn't take chances and ignores the rules when it suits him. Lucy is special to him. She saved his life more than once. When Sean transcends, he connects to the core Earth, which makes him something of an action hero. That connection also leaves him vulnerable to disconnection, since the tech axiom of his beloved pistol is higher than Aysle allows. It also leaves the questions of ammunition for his trademark weapon. In a normal game, Storm Knights have the opportunity to prepare for the mission and bring plenty of extra ammunition. Sean, on the other hand, wasn't expecting to go into combat today. He has only 1 magazine of ammunition for Lucy. It's loaded with all 17 shots, because Sean's just that kind of guy. He may find spare magazines of 9mm ammo on the body of the pilot who crashes in scene 2 if he looks. Once underground, no more bullets are forthcoming. Sean must conserve what he has or risk running out at a crucial moment. Calls to the emergency numbers such as 112 or 999. Oh, we already read that part. Charing Cross attack. 2 jets shriek overhead, and a huge shape with massive bat-like wings swoop past after them. The creature's loud roar sets off a new wave of panic among the crowds trying to flee the square. The throng press into the Charing Cross station halts as a thick cloud of dust erupts from the stairs leading downward. Screams of panic ring out as the bestial creatures swarm from the Charing Cross entrance, slashing at the crowd and laughing gleefully. Amid the bedlam, horrified screams, horrified voices yell out, "Run! They're coming up from the underground! Run!" The vicious humanoids known as lurks in Aysle wear fetid armor and carry wicked-looking weapons, including spiked clubs and bows with barbed arrows. They delight in taking the time to torture the weak and helpless, and they mercilessly cut down anyone who stands against them. After they cut down a foe, the creatures savagely rifle through his clothes and discard wallets or anything else that doesn't look like gold or a weapon. Among the creatures stand other beings, tall humanoids with pasty white skin and sharp features. They wear ornate robes, unlike the shabby armor of the savage warriors around them. They point at a few of the struggling humans, making utterances like, "Take that one below for the ritual," and "That one will suit Lord Antonok's purpose." The heroes see one of these pale priests point across the square where Emilia leads the students toward the National Gallery. And that one. The lurks swarm forward toward the fleeing civilians at the priest's bidding. One priest joins the attack on the surface, while the others turn back underground. More lurks carry the slumped bodies of people deeper into the tunnels. If the heroes engage, the lurks focus on them. Oh, there's a dragon. Nice. And leave the other innocents alone. If the heroes attempt to flee, creatures pursue, and the doors of the National Gallery are locked at the moment. If the Storm Knights are nearing defeat or attempt to leave the area completely, proceed directly to Scene 2 to keep them in the square. Lurks 3 per hero, Priests of Korbal 1. Half the lurks should charge forward and attempt to engage in melee. The rest spread out along the edge of the battle to take potshots at unengaged heroes where they can. Some of the heroes start unarmed, so they'll want to take weapons from fallen lurks to get the most out of their skills. Using a map really makes a difference here. If there is no map in use, have the lurks run to get into melee range and assume short bows are at medium range. Scene 2, Dragon Down. Dramatic scene. When the last lurk falls or any Storm Knight moves to exit the square through the National Gallery or Charing Cross, 2 shapes crash down from the sky above. One is an F-35 fighter. The RAF plane crashes into the Charing Cross entrance, sealing it in a terrible explosion. The other is a huge red dragon, just like those seen in big-budget fantasy movies. The dragon is visibly wounded, likely from a battle with the 2 F-35s. The other fighter's fate is unknown. One of the dragon's wings is broken and fiery liquid drips from its mouth instead of blood. It turns its serpentine eyes toward the Storm Knights. The eyes burn with rage. Who else dares stand against Bezrodicus? Bezlodricus. The Living Inferno, it snarls. Bezlodricus is enraged, and the Storm Knights make a good target for his ire. He's wounded out of possibilities and unable to fly, but he's a dragon and fights to the death anyway. If the heroes attempt to flee, he breathes fire to cut them off. There's no running from destiny. Bezlodricus, the Living Inferno, see below. This dragon has already suffered 10 shock and 3 wounds, and he has used all of his possibilities battling a squadron of F-35s. Bezlodricus, this gigantic scaled dragon, claims he is a fire incarnate, the Living Inferno. He has glistening red scales, massive talons, and a serpentine head. Even wounded, the mighty dragon scoffs at what he considers insignificant humans, and misses no opportunity to tell them just how powerless and delicious they are. Bezlodricus has a large mane of yellow hair around his scaly face, and at the tip of his long tail. Quote, "I am fire and death. You are nothing before me but ashes floating on the wind." He's got some special abilities, armor, bite, dread. While the fearsome dragon is present, any standard scene counts as a dramatic scene. Fire breath. Flight. Normally move 12 in the air, but Bezlodricus is wounded and may not fly. Gloater. When taunts or intimidation or approved actions, Bezlodricus may affect the entire party without a multi-target penalty, and any affected hero loses 1 random destiny card from their hand. Nice. Very large. Bezlodricus is 20 meters long, and attacks against him gain a +4 bonus. If this weren't already a dramatic scene, the presence of a dragon would make it so. There was no time to recover between scenes, so the heroes might start off in a bad shape. This is a new scene, so all cards in the action pool go back into their players' hands. Players may discard 1 destiny card and then draw back up to 4. This can be a very challenging battle, especially if the combat against the Clockwork Lion or Lurks didn't go well. Even wounded, the dragon is a deadly opponent. Award possibilities generously. The Storm Knights need them, and still don't have Cosm cards to fall back on. If the heroes are nearing defeat, bring back the other F-35 just long enough to obliterate any remaining Lurks and cause another wound to Bezeldrakis. Use the dragon's attack to destroy the fighter. Don't forget the dragon suffers a -3 penalty on every test thanks to its wounds. When it takes a 4th wound, the penalty remains -3, the maximum. Remind the players of the tips for bringing down tough bosses found on Facing a Monster sidebar on page 19. If the dragon is KO'd by shock rather than defeat with wounds, its fires go out and the creature slowly petrifies into stone as it cools. If the heroes manage to defeat Bezeldrakis without help from the other jet, make sure the survivors from the square and even a few villains witness it and remark upon it later. Wherever they go, the Storm Knights are met with awes and cries of Dragon Slayer. Scene 3, Under the Gallery. Standard scene. The heroes have time to scavenge Trafalgar Square for weapons and armor if they desire. Excuse me. Maces, strength +2, damage to hit stymies an opponent. Short bows, damage 11, minimum strength 6. And arrows are all in abundant supply. Anyone looking for better armor can put on the leather worn by the Lurks. It's foul-smelling and unpleasant, but provides armor +1 with a maximum dexterity of 10. There's no reason Bel Patel couldn't wear armor. If he refuses to wear armor because it might theoretically diminish his ability to cast spells, award his player a possibility for getting into the spirit of things. Meanwhile, the other survivors have all congregated within the National Gallery. There's no power, but the building itself seems intact and stable. Refugees huddle inside, away from the doors. They all look to the Storm Knights for leadership and batter them with questions about what's going on and how they did all those amazing things outside. Jamie's assistant takes a head count of the students and finds one missing, Amelia. According to the other students, she went to look at the exhibits while the adults were busy yelling or making plans. A quick search reveals that things are out of place, partially from the earthquake that shook the area, but also some of the exhibits have been ransacked. An easy DN8 find test determines that several of the movie props on display as part of the fantasy art exhibit are missing, along with some museum pieces made of precious metals. There are no apparent signs of Amelia. Suddenly, a muffled shriek echoes through the gallery, coming from somewhere downstairs. "She cut me!" a shrill voice screeches. By the time anyone can get there, the room the sounds come from is empty. The entire floor of the room is gone, collapsed down into a dark and winding tunnel. There's blood on the precipice, but standard evidence analysis test determines it's Lurk blood, not human blood. The eerie tunnel beckons. If the Storm Knights hesitate, Amelia's distant scream echoes up throughout the shaft. Traps and treasures. The tunnels are a great place for Storm Knights to play Cosm cards and gain possibilities or items. Traps encountered in the tunnels are most often deadfalls set up by wily Lurks, or fiery runes placed by priests of Korbal. The most likely enchanted items are movie props stolen from the museum, imbued with actual magical energy, but the axiom wash the most likely enchanted items are movie props stolen from the museum, imbued with actual magical energy by the axiom wash, and found in the possession of Lurks, or dropped in a secret crevice for later recovery. Sword of the King, a longsword, strength +3 damage, that sends bright sparks flying upon any hit, making the target very vulnerable afterwards. A Ring of the Dark Master, a golden rune inscribed ring that grants invisibility, just as the spell. Each use requires a spirit test to activate. If the test fails, the hero gains the Shadow Step Darkness perk for free. A second failure grants the Frightening Aspect Darkness perk. A third failure grants the Smiling Deceiver. But after a fourth, the hero turns completely to darkness and is controlled by the GM. That's awesome. Those are fantastic. I really like that. A little Lord of the Rings and King Arthur. The vermin in Aysle are large and cunning. Some are even intelligent. That's a cool looking spider. Anyone who hasn't had a moment of crisis certainly experiences one if they brave the dangerous tunnels beneath the gallery, underneath the gallery. Deal each player one Aysle Cosm card once they enter the tunnel and begin exploring underground. There's no power, so the delvers need to provide their own light once underground. Transformed or makeshift torches are easy to come by. The initial passage winds its way under Trafalgar Square. Water drips into one section, perhaps from the fountain above. Finally, the tunnel opens into the Charrington Cross underground station. The group sees mauled bodies strewn across the turnstiles. An easy DN8 tracking test reveals signs of people being dragged away. The lurks leave a trail of blood and bodies that can't be missed. Their paths lead deeper into the tube system and into a new, more natural-looking tunnel that opened up alongside the sidewall. A glimmer of hope. Not everything in this new realm was deadly and brutish. In one tunnel, characters see a bright golden glow from behind a rocky outcropping. If they investigate, they find a large pulsating globe of light. Its shape is in constant flux. It emits a warm glow and mild static field that raises the character's hair gently. The sphere seems like a living thing, a creature equal parts light and emotion. Once the group approaches it, it separates into 1,000 tiny globules like a dandelion caught in a strong wind. The minuscule lights drift over the Storm Knights, who has taken the most wounds, if any. That hero feels a tingling sensation as cuts close, bruises fade, and the character immediately heals one wound. Afterward, the sphere reforms, dimmer than it was before, and glides back toward the rock outcropping. The light fills a slender, hollow tube tucked behind the stones. The result is a glowing wand. The Storm Knights may take the wand along. It acts as a light source and also as a source of magical healing. Each scene, the light recharges and glows brighter once more. When pointed at a wounded character, the sphere emerges and heals another wound. It's up to the heroes to name and care for this wondrous device. The Webb Tunnel. As the characters descend into the underground's depth, the cavern walls give way to rough-hewn stone corridors with bizarre markings crudely etched into the walls. Some corridors feature blazing torches or piles of unidentifiable material set aflame to provide dim light. Webbing coats the walls as the hallway opens up into a much larger space. The large room is more like a natural cavern than the halls that preceded it, and strange stalactites covered in webbing hang down over the Storm Knights' heads. Probing into the webbing reveals that these aren't stalactites at all, but the desiccated bodies of lurks wrapped in webbing. A tittering voice rings out from the dark, distant reaches of the room. Hee hee, more warm guests, sisters. Large arachnid shapes move into the darkness, and light reflects from hundreds of tiny black eyes. Lilting voices make excited noises that sound like nibbergid, and skittering legs echo into the darkness. The chamber has multiple exits. Finding the correct one and escaping before the foul spiders overwhelm the group is a dramatic skill resolution with the following steps. Step A, find the correct door. A standard find test spots signs of disturbed webbing or blood where lurks battle the spiders. Step B, clear the webbing from the door. A fresh, thick layer of webbing blocks the door. A hard DN14 strength test brushes all the webbing aside. Step C, unlock the door. Unfortunately, the door is also locked, as the heroes discover once the handle is uncovered. A standard lockpicking test or very hard DN16 strength test opens it. Step D, brace the door to keep the spiders out. A very hard DN16 strength test pushes away any spider in the hallway, out and keeps the door slammed tight against them until they give up and leave. The group has 5 rounds to complete the task before an overwhelming number of spiders appear. Dilemmas represent the spiders weaving deeper webs, or even the discovery that the heroes picked the wrong door. Several of the larger talking spiders, called nibbergrids, scuttle toward the heroes as the encounter begins. Each round, more appear to join the fray. Smaller spiders flit through the webs and crawl across the characters' hands and legs as they fight. Nibbergrids are chatty creatures. They don't know why so many lurks are carrying people through their domain, but they're happy for the feast. They become enraged once any of their sisters are slain, and crow with sadistic glee whenever they deal damage to the Storm Knights. If the task fails, the heroes are forced to flee down the wrong passage, and it takes them much longer to find the lurk's trail again. The time this takes grants Antonok, the main villain in Act 2, 3 extra possibilities, thanks to the extra rituals he's able to complete. Nibberkids, 1 per hero. 2 Nibberkids arrive each round. Some of the tests for this task are very difficult and may require destiny cards, possibilities, or combined actions to resolve. A few Storm Knights must battle the Nibbergrids, or a weight of numbers soon allows them to stymie the heroes or deal deadly venom attacks. If the drama deck is unkind, remember any player may attempt a last-ditch effort, rolling for all the remaining steps, with a multi-attack penalty, but if the attempt fails, the task resets to step A. It's risky, but on round 5, if the drama decks aren't favorable, it's the only way. The way down. Eventually, the slowly descending tunnel gives way to a wide, dark chasm. Several crude grappling hooks are wedged into the tunnel's floor, and a coarse rope trails down into the darkness below. If the heroes balk, a few echoing cries from Amelia assure them they're on the right track. Characters who don't trust the rope may scale down unassisted with a challenging DN12 strength test. The rope is safe and makes the test a standard DN10. If the test fails, the Storm Knight tumbles down into a ledge far below. The fall deals 15 damage plus a bonus die. There are outcroppings to grab on the way down, so a successful dexterity test reduces falling damage by 5 points. Once the Storm Knights descend, the act ends. Act 2, Underground London. The heroes follow the trail left by the kidnappers into the dark spaces underground that connect Aysle to core Earth. Along the way, they have the option to rescue a dwarf and learn more about the strange world around them. The dangerous trail leads to the Temple of Corbal, where the evil sorcerer and his minions enact a ritual to drain the possibilities from captives taken from the surface. The Storm Knights must disrupt the ritual and put a stop to the sorcerer's schemes once and for all. Refresh each character's possibilities and deal new Cosm cards for the act. Scene 1, Torment of the Dwarf. Standard scene. To climb down leads to a ledge about 2 meters wide. The ledge forms a path that continues out of sight to the left and right. Only the end of the hanging rope offers any indication of the tunnel entrance high above. Excuse me. A standard find test reveals signs of foot traffic. Lots of it. Going both directions, but no indication which direction the lurks with Amelia went. Regardless of the result, the heroes hear sounds from the left, cursing interspersed with cruel laughter. If the Storm Knights ignore the noises and press on toward the right, skip directly to scene 2. If they approach quietly and cautiously, have each hero take an easy DN8 stealth test. A success allows them to approach the lurks unseen and attack with surprise. If the group just rushes forward, they see only the dwarf described below. The lurks in the area are hiding in an attempt to ambush the newcomers. Toward the left, the ledge leads past the corridor cut from the rock wall, similar to the one the heroes emerge from above. The walls, floor, and ceiling are all large interlocking stone blocks. Down the long hallway, just after a junction, a squat, heavily armored figure stands trapped inside the doorway. A huge stone block presses down. It says the halls of the land between are unstable and always shifting. A huge stone block presses down on the dwarf, partially closing off the entrance. The figure shoulders the stone block and strains to keep it from falling all the way shut. Under the dwarf's feet lies an unconscious and bleeding man who would surely be crushed if the dwarf let go of the stone. His slender frame is draped in green leather armor, and a sharp-eyed hero's spine pointed ears protruding from underneath his long amber hair. If the party approaches quietly, the armored dwarf is surrounded by mocking lurks. The creatures taunt and prod the dwarf with spears, and then dance back out of range when the frustrated creature fires a burst of flame at them from an armored gauntlet. If the heroes make too much noise or didn't try to sneak at all, the lurks are hiding in the corridor near the doorway. Here's a little map. So you can see here's the doorway here. The lurks around the corner. There's a ledge above. They hope to ambush the oncoming strangers as they rush to help the dwarf, but the dwarf signals the group before that can happen. The dwarf curses loudly at the motionless elf on the floor. "Get up, you stupid elf, I can't hold this up forever. Another mess caused by you elves. Why is everything always your fault?" The dwarf's voice is tinny and distorted by her helmet. The lurks are led by a canny chief named Rukera.
Shuffling Songs by Kenny G on Amazon Music.
Alexa, stop. Alexa, stop. What did I say? I said something that that alerted my Amazon. Maybe mute that for now. So the Lurks are led by a canny chief named Rakea. He's a stormer and may surprise heroes who have become used to dispatching hordes of Lurks with little trouble. Rakea, see page 61, 2 Lurks per hero. If the heroes manage to ambush the Lurks, they each get to play a card in their action pool before the first round of combat. The villains don't get to act until after the heroes do, so if the drama card's initiative order is villains first, they're skipped. Once the battle begins, the dwarf keeps holding the stone barrier until someone pulls the elf from underneath the doorway. A hard DN 14 strength test helps get her out from under the slab without being crushed too. Once freed, the dwarf defeats a Lurk each round. Don't roll test. Her revenge is swift and certain. Rakea attempts to flee once things turn against him. He runs out onto the ledge and turns to the right and keeps going until he reaches the Temple of Korba described in Scene 2. If he escapes, he participates in the battle during Scene 3. If the heroes choose not to help the dwarf, eventually she cries out in frustration and rolls back inside the hallway. The stone barrier falls and crushes the elf. The ledge outside eventually stops at a dead end, leaving the Storm Knights nowhere else to go but back and to the right. The Dwarf's Tale. Once the strangers are rescued, the dwarf is quick to introduce herself. Thank you, I'm Toric, and this useless elf is Nurin. Her words are rough, and she kneels over the elf to slap him awake. She appreciates any help the heroes provide, although she doesn't show it. She suggests a short rest, although enough to recover all shock, while Nurin revives. Toric the Dwarf is a dragon warrior. She is one of the last elite soldiers of her dying people. She has turned herself into a weapon of vengeance and is completely focused on her mission. Toric is genuinely curious about the stranger's realm and hopes they'll become allies in her struggle against Uthorian. Her armor is stylized to evoke dragons. It looks more advanced than medieval plate mail. Quote, "You hit pretty hard. I respect that." Nurin. Nurin is a tall, lanky elf. He's a scout helping Toric track Lurks, but he's sorely outside of his element in these stone tunnels. Nurin has 3 wounds and suffered a permanent injury when he was defeated. Even if he's healed, he remains cautious and withdrawn. Both he and Toric suggest that the group leave him behind to make his own way back. He tags along if the group asks him to, but he's just as useless as Toric claims. Even in his current state, Nurin has a winning smile, and he uses it freely. Quote, "I've been punctured. I want to go home." What Toric knows. Toric has much to say to the heroes. She and Nurin are Storm Knights, just like the characters. She explains how Storm Knights are chosen defenders of their realms, and suggests the heroes wear the title with honor. Toric and all the creatures the heroes have encountered are from Aysle, a realm that's been battling the High Lords for 500 years. Engar Uthorian is the High Lord of Aysle. She knows of a few other High Lords, including the Gaunt Man. She explains that they are in the land between of Aysle, a vast maze of tunnels and corridors that weaves all through the crust of her world. The land between was once the home of the dwarves, before they were all but wiped out. Uthorian has somehow managed to connect the land between to Earth. One of her people was recently captured, a seeker, someone with an unerring talent for finding pathways here in the land between. She and Nurin believe the seeker was taken to the Temple of Korba for some vile ritual. Korba is the god of corruption. Toric doesn't know much about him and prefers to keep it that way. His worshippers tend to be necromancers. The sect's high priest is named Antonok. If asked what happened back in the corridor, Toric sheepishly admits that they fell into an ambush thanks to that idiot Nurin. He was felled by arrows just as the Lurks triggered that deadfall. Once everyone has had a chance to rest and she has answered some questions, Toric suggests the group move out toward the temple. Scene 2, the Temple of Korba. Standard scene. Following the ledge to the right eventually leads to a strange sight. A temple made of irregular block stone floats in the middle of a chasm. Sickly vines wrap around the temple and hang off the structure, trailing down into the bottomless chasm below. A slender rock bridge connects the ledge to the temple. There are no handrails, and it's a sheer drop on all sides. There's only the empty space beneath the bridge and the temple itself, so magic of some kind must be at work. As the Storm Knights approach, they see one of the robed priests from Trafalgar Square crossing the bridge toward the temple. In the distance, they can barely hear him muttering some strange incantation. As he walks forward, the irregular blocks of the temple wall move aside to form an opening, then reform into a solid wall after he passes through. The only approach to the temple is along the thin stone bridge. As the characters get closer, they spy that the irregular stones of the walls are actually charred, blackened bones. Some of the bones in the wall are complete skeletons. Vines twist through the wall's bones. The Door of Bones. Opening the doorway requires a hard DN14 alteration test. If no hero has the skill, a very hard DN16 strength test pushes the bones aside without the use of magic. If the altered test succeeds, the heroes may move forward without incident. If the test fails or strength is used instead, the bones and vines of the walls knit together into humanoid creatures and attack. Gossbog with first planting, 2 per hero. The group is still on the bridge when the Gossbog attack. The bridge is only 5 meters across. A mishap sends a character teetering on the edge, leaving him very vulnerable. A Gossbog who rolls a mishap falls off the bridge instead, plummeting to certain doom below. A player's call on any interaction may also send up a Gossbog over the bridge. The Charnel Gallery. Once past the outer wall, the characters emerge into the main gallery, a large room filled with piles of discarded bones. At the end of the far room, a statue dominates the interior of the temple. The stone figure is a man with a gaunt face and a wide-brimmed hat. He holds a cane and wears clothes that look like more Victorian than Aysle. If Toric is present, she wonders aloud if that's supposed to be a statue of the gaunt man, the reputed leader of the High Lords. What's he doing in a temple dedicated to Corbal? Behind the grim altar is a winding stairwell leading down. The steps are made from the same vine-strewn bone as the rest of the temple. The sound of a loud, indistinct chant echoes up from below. Scene 3, the ritual. One second here. A dramatic scene. The stairs wind down into a massive chamber. A tall figure in black robe stands in the very center of the chamber, hands raised and leading the others in a chant. He has a slender, handsome features, but his red eyes and alabaster white skin mark him as one of the undead. This is Antonok, one of the many necromancers of Corbal and high priest of this sect. 7 hooded figures, his chosen priests, encircle him. The priests face Antonok and chant in unison. Magical energy flares around them all. Behind the priests, 9 people are manacled to a long chain. They are positioned between 2 pillars and a statue much like one of the charnel gallery above. Amelia is one of the prisoners. The captives look disoriented and fatigued. Their skin pulls taut and starts losing color as the chant continues. The Storm Knights all feel the possibility energy buzzing in the air. A small contingent of lurks stand behind one of the prisoners, watching the proceedings with awe. The Fall of Toric. Toric, if present, acts before anyone has a chance to stop her. She bellows a war cry and leaps down to the base of the stairs, where the trap door opens beneath her feet. She disappears into the dark chasm below the temple. The lurks attack. Whether alerted by Toric or not, the lurks still catch sight of the heroes and move from the prisoners to intercept them. The ritual continues unabated as the battle begins. And at the end of each round, Antonok gains an extra possibility. Antonok, see page 58, lurks 2 per hero, priest of Corbal 7, and Rukeya if he escaped. Disrupting the ritual. So long as the ritual continues, Antonok is invulnerable. Any attack against him stops at the circle formed by the chanting priests. The circle is also a physical barrier, which the characters can't cross. The priests forming the circle have no such invulnerability. Participating in the ritual makes each very vulnerable. They continue the ritual so long as any priest or captive remains. Once all the prisoners are freed or all the priests are slain, the ritual ends. The circle is disrupted and Antonok himself becomes accessible. He and any remaining priests join the fight. I could have had so much more, he rages, and he commits to repelling the intruders with any of his remaining forces. Freeing the prisoners. The chains and manacles binding the prisoners are toughness 13 objects and may be broken with a heroic DN 18 strength test. There are 2 chains linking the prisoners, each attached to a pillar on one side of the statue or the other. And the statue on the other. Each chain has the same toughness as the manacles. A standard lockpicking test opens a captive's manacles. There are locks on the chains themselves at each pillar. If a chain is unlocked or destroyed, all the prisoners attached to it are freed. There's one last trick waiting the hero who tries to unlock the ends of the chains. Another trapdoor is hidden by one of the pillars right near where the chain end is locked. If a hero moves to pick that lock, allow a challenging DN12 find test to spot the trap and avoid it. If the hero fails, a hard DN14 dexterity test offers one last chance to leap to safety as the floor underneath it crumbles away. If that too fails, the character appears to fall into the abyss below, at least for a moment. In actuality, Toric is clinging to vines hanging below the temple. She catches the falling Storm Knight. On the hero's initiative next round, the mighty dwarf hurls the Storm Knight back up through the trapdoor, much to the surprise of the heroes and villains alike. Nice. Antonok. Antonok is tall and slender, and wears the ornate black robes of the priest of Korbaal. His eyes are blood red, and his fingers end in long black claws. So long as the ritual continues, he remains completely focused on it, absorbing as much possibility energy as he can. Once the ritual stops, he seethes in anger, casts his shield spell, and uses all deadly magic in his arsenal to destroy the interlopers. The pointed ears of an elf hide under Antonok's white hair. He was likely a high elf long ago before darkness twisted him and undeath claimed his body. Quote, "In the name of Uthorian and the Gaunt Man, I shall drain your energy dry." Some special abilities: Life Drain. Antonok's touch deals 13 damage, and he immediately heals the same number of shock or wounds he deals. Ritual Protection. So long as any of his priests remain alive to participate in the draining ritual, Antonok is immune to all damage and interaction attacks. Undead. Whites are immune to the effect that require breathing, eating, or other living processes. The Fall of the Temple. As Antonok falls, he cries out, "I am but one of many. My brothers shall avenge me." With the necromancer gone, the bones that form the temple start to shift and shake. The heroes feel the entire place start to come apart and topple. Any remaining lurks or priests scatter in terror or fall through the floor as chunks drop away. Everyone who races up the stairs, including the captives, makes it to the bridge in time. After the last person reaches the bridge, the temple falls away into the darkness, piece by piece, leaving only the stone walkway out into the empty chasm and a few last-hanging vines. One of those vines twitches, pulled from below. Toric appears, clinging to it and pulling herself up slowly towards the ledge. She won't say no to an offered hand up. The surviving captives profusely thank the Storm Knights. One is the dwarven seeker that Toric was looking for. Another is an elf. The rest of the captives are people taken from London. The survivors are grateful to the group for rescuing them. All of them can feel their life forces being drained away by the ritual and shudder to think what would have happened if it had been completed. Amelia breaks up the conversation with a simple query. "Can we go home now?" Epilogue. The trip back to the surface is easier than the delve down. Amelia seems to know the easiest way, leading the heroes back along a different path. Within an hour of climbing, everyone is back to the museum. When asked how she knew the way to go, Amelia just shrugs and replies, "I just knew." In the following weeks, attacks from above and below continue to ravage the countryside. The most stable pockets of resistance form around the recognizable landmarks, like Big Ben, the Palace of Westminster, and even the National Gallery, along with anywhere the Storm Knights choose to take a stand. Allies from Aysle have appeared in increasing numbers to reinforce the troops fighting Uthorian's minions. Tolwyn's return and the revelation that Lady Pella Ardenne have been possessed by Uthorian's spirit sent shockwaves through these new partners. Weeks later, the heroes are still in London, helping out where they can when they hear jet engines, a rare sound in the Isles now. A tilt-winged aircraft comes to a landing, and an older man in combat fatigues emerges. He appraises the Storm Knights and introduces himself in a gruff voice. "My name is Quinn Sebastian, and I'm with the Delphi Council. We're an organization dedicated to kicking the High Lords off Earth. Not just here, but everywhere. To do that, we're gonna need heroes. The best. He grins widely. I'm looking for the Storm Knights people are calling the Dragon Slayers. Know anyone like that? And here are the threats. Gospog of the First Planting, Lurks, Nibrikids, Priests of Korbal, Reika. Ooh. Not all Lurks are wretched and cowardly. Huh. Let's see, what are the Lurks exactly? It says, Lurks are degenerate humanoids with mottled green or pale white skin, slightly oversized heads, and gnarled sharp teeth. They rob, torture, and loot at the behest of their masters, and they enjoy every minute of it. Interesting. So that is it for the Aysle adventure. Remember, if you are watching this sometime in early June, early mid-June, you can get this this adventure, day one adventures, along with the GM screen and the archetypes, the quick start, and the drama deck, all for pay what you want on DriveThruRPG right now. So go check that out. If you are seeing this sometime between June 23rd and July 14th, go check out Game On Tabletop. Search for Torg Eternity and Tharkold, and Tharkold crowdfunding should be live if you're watching it during that time. So that's next week as of right now. You can go check out some of the previews that Deanne has been putting on the website. She just put up the third one today. It's all about the High Lord Cranod, or the former High Lord. So go check that out as well, and you can see what the Torg team is up for, is doing for previews for Tharkold. So with that, I'm Robert Aducci, and we'll come back on Wednesday, and I think on Wednesday I'm going to read some of the if we have another short adventure for day one, we'll read through one of those, but then I'll go ahead and read through those previews too, so you can see, if you didn't have a chance to read the Tharkold previews, I'll go ahead and read them out and you can listen. All right, so again, I'm Robert Aducci for Ulysses International. We'll see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.